the mother figure in your psyche. Introduction. In this guide, we'll cover 11 parts. You'll learn how the internal mother figure forms, how it shapes your anxiety, your relationships, and your inner critic. Each part ends with a practical exercise, something you can do on paper today. You don't need to take notes, just listen. And if something lands, you'll know. The internal mother figure is the first and deepest psychological structure in your personality. Understanding it can help you stop searching for unconditional love in romantic partners. It can help you transform background anxiety into something you can live with. It can help you build healthy attachment and feel, for the first time, that you have the right to exist without earning it. Before we begin, I want to check something with you. I'm going to read you 10 statements. For each one, give it a score from 1 to 10. 10 means, yes, that's exactly me. 1 means, not me at all. 1. You often feel a low-level anxiety, a sense that something bad is about to happen, even when nothing is wrong. 2. You struggle to hold a steady distance in relationships. You either dissolve into a partner out of fear of losing them or push them away the moment they get close. 3. You criticize yourself for small mistakes and refuse yourself the right to be weak, tired, or vulnerable. 4. You have trouble knowing what you need. You catch yourself thinking, I don't even know what I want right now. 5. You fear being alone so much that you stay in painful or damaging relationships rather than face yourself. 6. You take on the role of rescuer, becoming a parent to partners and friends, while your own needs go unmet. 7. You find it hard to believe you can be loved for who you are, without achievements or proof of your usefulness. 8. You feel guilt when you rest, do nothing, or spend time and money on yourself alone. 9. You experience sharp mood swings and find it very hard to calm yourself down under stress. 10. In conflict, you collapse into the state of a hurt or helpless child and lose access to your adult self. If you scored 7 or higher, this guide is for you. Part 1. What is the internal mother figure, and how does it form? The internal mother figure is not a photograph of your real mother. It's a psychological image built from millions of moments in early childhood. How your mother looked at you, how she responded when you cried, how she touched you, comforted you, spoke to you, even how she talked about you when she thought you were asleep. A baby absorbs this experience of care and turns it into something internal, a voice, a feeling, a default way of being treated. If fear and pain were met with warmth and presence, that voice becomes steady. It says, I'm with you. We'll get through this. If distress was met with indifference, anxiety, or irritation, that voice becomes critical and cold. In adulthood, it dictates how you treat yourself when you fail, when you're exhausted, when you're vulnerable. The first step toward change is hearing that voice clearly. You can't change something you haven't noticed. Try this exercise. Open a notebook and draw a line down the center of the page. On the left, write a recent small failure or mistake, something simple. On the right, write word for word what your inner voice said in response. Don't filter. Write exactly what surfaced automatically. That's how you begin to hear your internal mother. Does that voice support you, or does it work against you? Part 2. Mother and father, two different foundations. The mother figure and the father figure shape different parts of who you are. The mother figure lays the foundation of belonging and emotional safety. It shapes your ability to hold difficult feelings without falling apart. It shapes your relationship with your body, with rest, with care. It gives you the sense, I am loved because I exist. The father figure points outward. It forms your understanding of rules, ambition, and achievement. The father says, you are valuable for what you do. If the mother gives you roots, the father gives you direction. A deficit in the maternal foundation shows up as chronic emptiness, background anxiety, an inability to be alone with yourself. A deficit in the paternal foundation shows up as procrastination, fear of being seen, trouble with money and authority. Many people try to solve a maternal wound with paternal methods, pushing harder, setting stricter goals, exhausting themselves with discipline, hoping that achievement will finally bring peace. It doesn't work that way. There's a simple way to see which foundation is missing for you right now. Take a piece of paper and write down your biggest current difficulty in one sentence. Then complete these two phrases. To handle this, what I need most is unconditional acceptance and care. Because to handle this, what I need most is structure, clear limits, and a concrete plan. Because the phrase that comes easier, that's the one you already have. The one that's harder to finish, that's the gap. Part 3. When you search for a mother in your partner. At some point, most of us stop looking for a partner and start looking for a mother. We don't know we're doing it, but the signs are there. We project our earliest attachment experiences onto the people closest to us in adult life. When the internal mother feels deficient, we try to turn our partner into that unconditionally loving, all-powerful parental figure. The demands that follow are impossible for any adult to meet. Read my thoughts without words. Prove your love constantly. Tolerate any emotional outburst and never pull away. This is how an adult ends up looking for a mother, using another person to find what was never given. No partner can be that for you. And when they try to set a limit, even a reasonable one, it feels like catastrophic rejection. The urge to call an ex or search for someone new becomes overwhelming. The reverse is also true. If the mother was controlling and suffocating, closeness in adulthood triggers panic. Any affection starts to feel like a trap. Most people don't recognize this pattern in themselves. Here is James's story. James came to therapy after his second divorce. His therapist asked him to write down what he wanted from a relationship. He sat down and made the list. She should always know when I'm upset, without me saying a word. She should never need space from me. She should make me feel safe the way I never felt at home. He looked at it for a long time. Then he wrote at the bottom, I'm not looking for a partner. I'm looking for a mother. That was the first honest thing he'd written in years. Maybe you recognize something in that list. Here's an exercise that can help you see your own. Write 3 things you secretly or openly demand from a current, former, or potential partner. Next to each one, answer this. Can one adult give this to another adult every day without destroying themselves? This shifts the focus from your partner's behavior to your own projections. Part 4. Background anxiety and the body's memory. You know that feeling. Everything is fine, nothing is actually wrong, and yet there's a quiet sense of dread sitting somewhere in your chest. That's background anxiety, and it doesn't come from nowhere. It's a signal from the nervous system that, in early experience, a reliable mechanism for holding emotions never formed. In infancy, a baby experiences emotions as physical terror. Cold, hunger, loneliness feel like threats to survival. The mother's job is to receive that panic, hold it, and return it to the child in a calm, bearable form. That's what containment means. If the mother was depressed, anxious, emotionally immature, or absent, that terror stayed unprocessed. The psyche never learned to calm itself. The body stays on permanent alert, expecting danger, because internally there's no certainty. I can handle this. This anxiety can't be reasoned away. It was laid down before language existed. It needs to be worked through the body, through grounding, through physical safety. Here is Emma's story. Emma had everything she was supposed to want: a good job, a stable relationship, an apartment she'd worked hard for. Every morning she woke up with a tight chest and a sense that something terrible was about to happen. She'd run through the checklist. Nothing is wrong. It didn't help. Her therapist asked, "When was the first time you remember feeling this way?" Emma thought it would take a while to answer. It didn't. "Always," she said, "for as long as I can remember." They traced it back not to any single event, but to a home where the atmosphere was permanently tense. Her mother's moods were unpredictable. Silence meant danger. Emma's nervous system had learned one thing early: stay alert, never fully relax. 30 years later, sitting in a safe apartment with a locked door, her body still didn't know it was allowed to rest. Maybe that sounds familiar. Here's something you can do right now. Write 5 concrete, undeniable physical facts that prove you are safe in this moment. For example, I am sitting on a solid chair. The door to my home is locked. My breathing is steady. My heartbeat is calm. There is warm water in the tap. This activates the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic, and reduces activity in the fear center. You're building the calming container your nervous system never received. Part 5. The cold mother and the frozen zone inside. Emotional coldness in a parent leaves a dead zone in the child's psyche. The child can't explain. My mother is depressed, or she doesn't know how to show feeling because of her own wounds. The only available conclusion is, something is wrong with me. I'm not good enough to be loved. As adults, people who grew up with a cold mother get stuck waiting, hoping to melt the ice. They try to be the perfect child. They prove their success. They pick fights just to get some living reaction. This is a path toward re-traumatization. The exit begins with recognizing one hard truth: this well is dry. No matter how long you wait, no matter how hard you try, nothing will appear. You have to grieve the fact that an ideal, warm childhood will never have existed for you. That grief is real, but on the other side of it, energy frees up to become a warm mother to yourself. Here's Claire's story. Claire. Her mother was present, physically. She came to school plays, cooked dinner, sat at the same table. But something was always slightly off. When Claire cried, her mother changed the subject. When Claire was excited, her mother found a problem with it. When Claire was sick, her mother listed everything she still needed to get done that day. At 38, Claire sat across from a therapist and tried to describe her childhood. "It was fine," she said. "Nothing bad happened." The therapist asked, "Did you feel seen?" Claire opened her mouth to answer. Nothing came out. She realized she had spent her adult life manufacturing the feelings she never got, through work, through being needed, through never asking for anything. Not because she didn't need things, because somewhere early on she had learned that her needs made people uncomfortable. So she made herself small and called it strength. The work started with one question she asked herself each evening. What did I need today that I didn't give myself? Most nights, the answer was simple. Rest. Quiet. To say no to something. Small things, but things she had stopped noticing she needed at all. Maybe you recognize something in Claire's story. Here's an exercise that works in the same direction. Divide a page into 2 columns. On the left, write 3 moments from your recent day when you felt even minor discomfort. Fatigue, a sting of offense, cold, a pull toward sleep. On the right, next to each one, write the exact words or action that a warm, attentive person would have offered you in that moment. This is how you begin building an internal caretaker, one response at a time. Part 6. Overprotection, when too much care destroys. Most people assume that too much love can't hurt a child. It can. Overprotection sends the child a hidden but powerful message. The world is unbearably dangerous, and you are too weak to handle it alone. On the surface, I'm just looking out for you. Between the lines, you will fail without me. Overprotection is rarely driven by genuine love. More often, it's a mother managing her own anxiety, preventing every step the child takes, doing everything for them, shielding them from any disappointment. In doing so, she robs the child of a critical experience, encountering frustration and surviving it. The child never builds what you could call a psychological skeleton. The inner knowledge that I can fall, I can fail, and I can keep going. Adults raised under overprotection often suffer from imposter syndrome, learned helplessness, and an inability to make decisions. They seek out authority figures to tell them how to live and take responsibility for the consequences. Here's a way to start breaking that pattern. Write one small, safe action that you usually postpone or second-guess out of fear of doing it imperfectly. Send a work email without rereading it 10 times. Make a purchase without consulting 3 friends first. Cook a new dish without demanding it come out perfectly. Do it today, as it is. That evening, write down what happened. Collect 100 of these moments. That's proof of your own competence. Part 7. The right to exist without earning it. Some people cannot rest without guilt, cannot spend money on themselves without justifying it, cannot sit still without feeling like they should be doing something. This didn't come from nowhere either. The inability to love yourself without conditions appears when, in early experience, love was given as a reward for good behavior, high grades, useful results, never as a given. The child whose value is measured by their function learns a brutal rule. As I am needed by no one. To survive, the psyche builds a false self, a facade of achievements, productivity, social performance. The adult becomes a hostage to their own efficiency. Any pause in the race for results brings panic and a sense of worthlessness. Because with the doing gone, the right to exist disappears with it. The path back starts with separating your person from your productivity. You are not your achievements. You are larger than any of your behaviors. Try this exercise. Write 5 qualities or expressions of yourself that exist separately from your work, your status, and your usefulness to others. The simplest things count: a contagious laugh, the ability to feel music, the habit of noticing morning light, something that cannot be sold, but is quietly yours. You're training your mind to register your own value in a state of being, not only doing. Part 8. Attachment Style. Why you run or why you cling. How you behave in close relationships is not a personality flaw. It's a pattern, and it was learned. Your pattern in close relationships is a direct reflection of how predictably and safely your mother responded to your needs in the first years of life. If she was inconsistent, warm and present one moment, cold and distant the next, an anxious attachment style forms. An adult with this pattern lives in constant fear of loss. They smother a partner with control, demand proof of love, and cling to relationships because any hint of distance feels catastrophic. If the mother was consistently rejecting, harsh, or intrusive and dominating, an avoidant attachment style forms. For this person, closeness equals pain, or the loss of self. At the first sign of intimacy, an internal alarm fires. They sabotage relationships, retreating into work, hobbies, or devaluing the partner. Seeing your automatic pattern lets you stop reacting from childhood terror and start choosing your responses. Here's David's story. Every relationship he'd ever had ended the same way. The moment a woman got close, he found a reason to leave. Too clingy, too serious, not the right one. His therapist asked him once, "What does closeness feel like in your body?" David thought for a moment. "Like a trap," he said. He hadn't expected that answer. Neither had he expected what came next. The memory of his mother walking into his room uninvited, going through his things, telling him his feelings were wrong. Closeness had always meant losing himself. No wonder he kept running. If any of that sounds familiar, try this. Recall one recent situation when you felt an overwhelming urge to either escape a relationship or frantically demand reassurance. Answer 2 questions in writing. What action by the other person triggered this reaction? And what old threat from the past did your psyche recognize in that moment? This moves an automatic emotional reaction into conscious territory, separating the real person in front of you from the figure haunting you from the past. Part 9. Stopping the wait for what she cannot give. Some people spend years waiting for their mother to finally understand, to apologize, to give what was withheld, hoping that if they explain themselves better, earn more, or look more put together, she will one day open her arms and make it right. She won't, not because she doesn't want to, because she can't. If a person lacks the capacity, the empathy, and the ability to reflect, nothing you do will change that. You can't fill a well that has no water. The psyche holds on to hope because releasing it means confronting grief. Yet it's behind that grief that real freedom waits. Forgiving is not pretending everything is fine. It's withdrawing the power you've given an external source over your inner life. When you acknowledge the bankruptcy of what was never given, you take your energy back. There is one exercise that can help move this. Write a letter to your mother that you will never send. The structure is simple. I no longer wait from you, A, B, C, because you cannot give me this. It is painful to admit, but I am releasing this hope. Write everything that surfaces. Allow any emotion. This is not about her. It's about freeing what has been frozen inside you. Part 10. The inner critic. Your mother's voice still running. You probably know that voice. The one that shows up the moment something goes wrong. You're an idiot. You always do this. Who did you think you were? The inner critic is a voice internalized so many times from the outside that you began speaking it to yourself from the inside. When a child is criticized, shamed, or dismissed, they can't step back and think, "My mother is having a hard day." The only available conclusion is, "I am bad." And to avoid rejection in the future, the psyche builds an internal copy of the punishing parent, a voice that attacks at the first sign of failure. This voice disguises itself as conscience or the drive toward self-improvement. It operates by preemptive destruction. Better I demolish myself with criticism than wait for someone else to do it. The inner critic cannot be removed, but you can grow something stronger alongside it, a protective voice that operates on facts. Try this. Write 3 of the harshest phrases you regularly use against yourself. Next to each one, write a rebuttal from the perspective of a strict, objective defense attorney, using only facts, not "I'm wonderful." Facts, the evidence that refutes the accusation. You are not your worst moment. The charges require proof. Part 11. Growing your own internal mother. Everything we've covered in this guide points toward one thing: becoming your own source of care. To build a supportive internal mother figure means practicing, consciously, methodically, daily, the acts of care, protection, and warmth you needed as a child. A good enough mother is not a perfect mother. A perfect mother would destroy the child by removing all contact with reality. A good enough mother meets basic needs, comforts in grief, allows mistakes, and rejoices at the fact that the child exists. You are taking on that role for yourself. Here is Michael's story. Michael came to therapy after his third marriage fell apart. His therapist asked, "How do you treat yourself when things go wrong?" He didn't understand the question. "What do you mean, treat myself? What do you say to yourself? What do you do?" Michael thought about it. "I push harder. I tell myself to stop being weak and fix it." The therapist nodded. "Has that ever worked?" Long silence. "No," he said quietly. "Never." They spent the next year doing something Michael had never done. Not fixing, not pushing, not performing. Learning to stay with himself without judgment. It was the hardest thing he had ever done. Harder than any of his marriages. Harder than building his business. Near the end, he told his therapist, "I think I've been a terrible parent to myself." She said, "You're here now. That's what matters." Every time you make a mistake, get sick, feel exhausted, or fail, your task is to interrupt the automatic stream of criticism and activate a voice of compassion. The old neural pathways will pull you back toward self-rejection. Each time you choose differently, you lay down something new. Write a formal agreement with yourself. I, your name, take responsibility today for being my own supportive parent. I commit to feeding myself, resting before I collapse, protecting myself from attack, and stopping the habit of tearing myself apart for mistakes. From this day, I am on my own side. Date it. Sign it. Keep it somewhere you will see it. You have always had an enormous capacity for love and devotion. freely given to others. It is time to direct some of that toward the person who has needed it most. You, today. Thank you for being here. Take care of yourself. You deserve it.